Hey there nerds, I'm Dr. Jordan Breeding, and you're watching Your Brain on Cracked, the only show on Cracked that's basically Star Wars because it's also mostly shot in front of a green screen and stars mainly white people. And speaking of alternatives to famous media that you're getting tired of, in this episode we're discussing the thing I just said. First, let's clarify what I mean exactly. Some of you may remember the 2018 sci-fi thriller Upgrade that tells the story of a man attacked by a group of psychopaths who totally Christopher Nolan his wife and paralyze him from the neck down. But then he gets an AI chip implanted in him, which allows him to walk around and do cool martial arts because science rocks. The chip also talks to him, and together they go on a brutal revenge spree like a less erotic, more serious version of Venom.
Spam, he's got a knife!
Then the film later blurs the line between the AI's will and the dude's consciousness, making it one of the best, most erotic RoboCop films ever made. And that's what I'm talking about here. Famous franchises whose main themes can be found in other, often superior stories that by sheer coincidence all happen to be TV shows. It's also just an excuse to point out things that are cool, like Upgrade. Seriously, go watch Upgrade. It's cool. It's possible for two seemingly opposite things to exist at the same time, like bad people and their good art, or me and f***ing Dave. By all accounts, Joss Whedon is a bad dude with numerous accusations suggesting the once geek king creates whole new calibers of toxic and casually cruel work environments. For example, a writer for Firefly once claimed that Whedon liked to brag about the time he made a staffer cry twice during the same meeting.
I'm then psychotic.
But him being a shithead does not suddenly make his work shitty. Case in point, Firefly has been off the air for about 20 years, and there are still people out there praying to a Nathan Fillion poster that somebody less dickish will revive the show. And they also wonder, in their weaker moments, will Nathan ever lift the restraining order on them for sending him all that erotic artwork of Malcolm Reynolds? Should have made the penis bigger! Stupid, Jordan, stop! One of the reasons people still pine harder for Firefly than the Canadian wilderness is because the show introduced so many compelling questions. Will the stark divide between poorer and richer planets escalate into a new civil war? Will the brown coat rebels win this time? How the heck do you eat an ice plant?
My food is problematic.
Unfortunately, we may never get those answers, but we can get the next best thing. A show that's kind of like Firefly, only with vaster world building and entirely devoid of asshole creators. Appropriately, it's called The Expanse, referring to both the show scope and the size of Joss Whedon's butthole. Probably. Yeah. Originally airing on Sci-Fi before moving to Amazon Prime, The Expanse has many familiar elements. It's the future, the solar system has been colonized, and even future Baltimore makes a convincing setting for The Wire.
Get your club kalash!
More importantly, there's also a Firefly-esque interplanetary war brewing. The three major players are resource-rich Earth, militaristic Mars, and the red-headed, rented step mule of the system which supplies most planets with vital resources, the asteroid belt.
This is going to be very tedious if you remain this thin.
Most everyone looks down on the poor blue-collar belters who, due to toiling away in zero gravity, develop emaciated bodies and such fragile bones that exposing a belter to Earth's gravity is known as gravity torture, the show's extremely unsubtle version of waterboarding.
All you have to do to make it stop is
So the belters are the equivalent of Firefly's heroic underdog brown coat independence fighters, right? No. That's the beauty of The Expanse. No one group is the clear good guy. Earth is controlled by a brave New World-esque UN, Mars is a borderline fascist superpower, and many of those who claim to speak for the belt are pirates and terrorists. They're all like, "Oh, I'm from the belt."
And that makes me a monster.
The belters are definitely underdogs, but that does not automatically make them heroes, even if their cause is good. The creation of an independent belter homeworld where they can have full access to air, water, and apparently Klav Kalash, the weird dish possibly made from ant-stuffed anteaters from The Simpsons, which made a blink and you'll miss it cameo appearance on The Expanse's season 5 episode Churn. And yeah, Firefly is a space western, while The Expanse is more of a political war drama, but it retains a familiar Wild West frontier feel for certain characters and adventures. Speaking of, similarly to Firefly, the crew of the Rocinante, nobodies who find themselves in the middle of a system-spanning conflict, have a touching, if dysfunctional, family dynamic.
It's hard enough for one husband to
Add to that the presence of a bunch of rusted, broken machinery that makes the world look lived in, and you get an awesome show, more than capable of scratching that Firefly itch. And if you have a problem with The Expanse, you have a problem with me, because it's one of my favorite shows the last however many years I've been alive when you happen to watch this video. And also, speaking of that offhand Canadian forestry joke I made like 3 minutes ago, the small town show is an entire broad genre unto itself. You have serious soapy productions like Friday Night Lights, focused on the importance of sports in a town with little else, or Fargo, hell-bent on destroying the myth of the perfect American small town and uncovering the unpleasant realities of living in a place where your choice of coffee is limited to yes and no coffees.
We're just going through a rough time, sir.
Then you have comedies like My Name is Earl or Parks and Rec that tackle the topic of small towns with ensemble casts of wacky townspeople regularly making huge deals out of tiny, inconsequential problems because what else is there to do around these parts?
I appreciate your offer, but you're not cutting off your pinky toe.
And yet all of these shows pale in comparison to the Canadian small town comedy, LetterKenny, which combines all of these disparate flavors in one delicious gumbo of hilarity and poignancy. Do they eat gumbo in Canada? Maybe it's like a moose soup. How about this? To prove that I do know a lot about Canada, I'll do this next section with a Canadian accent. Okay?
Speaking with a wee bit of an accent then.
Well, each episode of LetterKenny opens with a text. There are 5,000 people in LetterKenny, and these are their problems. And true to what some handsome devil said a moment ago, some of those problems are the opposite of problems. They're smell borp. But the main characters, a group of Canadian farmers and their friends and family, always manage to find a way to make any tiny slight into a whole big thing. Like when they crusade against a golf course trying to control the local goose population.
Motherhood.
Sports also play a massive role in LetterKenny, with entire episodes focused on huge conflicts centered around, of course, hockey, because Canada's friendliness is directly proportional to their ability to purge themselves by strapping on knife shoes and cracking each other's skulls with sticks.
Let's have a Donnybrook!
Although the initial draw is likely the incessant hurling of the most best and inventive insults ever spoken aloud.
Play a little 5-on-1.
Hit the kitchen, mix a batch.
Feed the ducks.
Distribute some free literature.
Shit, seriously, Google LetterKenny quotes and you'll find hundreds of pish you marshmallow holder lines. At the same time, though, there's a subtle, more serious side to LetterKenny. A big part of life in the town of LetterKenny is drugs, but the show never gets preachy. They're just there because oftentimes modern life in a small town comes with quite oppressiveness that people may try to briefly escape through illicit substances. It's just a part of life in LetterKenny and thousands of other places like it. Hell, one of the show's main characters, the lovably huggable Squirrely Dan, used to do coke like an industrial vacuum cleaner. You name the kind of coke and object in a place and he snorted it off it at it. And it turned out okay. I mean, it was just something he had to go through, but again, there's no lesson here about the time he hoovered Sneef. This all barely scratches the surface of LetterKenny, but the point is it's a refreshingly realistic portrayal of something millions of North Americans live with, and something the rest of us could stand to learn more about. Hell, I'm recording this video about 100 feet from a bunch of frickin' cows in Virginia. I've never done any cocaine, but never say never. If nothing else, LetterKenny will make you laugh your ass off. Safely experience life in a small town without actually having to live in one, which I can say from experience is a damned public service on LetterKenny's part. Just be warned, but this section is f***ed.
To be fair.
To be fair.
Well, to be fair.
American. J.K. Rowling's weird-ass fixation on what's inside everybody's pants is single-handedly succeeding where Voldemort and his army of magic Nazis failed. You know, actually kind of killing Harry Potter. And not that anybody asked, but mine are filled with emergency marshmallows. But if you're jonesing for more magical kid stories, there are plenty of superior TV alternatives to Harry Potter out there, like the sci-fi series The Magicians, based on the 2009 novel of the same name by Lev Grossman. First, this is a safe space, and it's okay to admit that Harry Potter himself is blander than air-flavored water.
He's boring.
He's like most blank slate main characters written to be generic enough that anybody could pretend that they too could be one day living under a staircase with a wild animal and a dark, squirty secret.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've eaten loads of times.
But not so with Quentin Coldwater, the protagonist of The Magicians, who actually has a basic personality.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Both Harry Potter and The Magicians follow a young person enrolled in a secret magic school, learning about a new world and having to deal with a magical big bad. However, The Magicians also has drinking, smoking, and sex, but I won't argue that that is what's missing from Harry Potter because I'm on enough government watch lists as is.
I tried putting it in my if I were you.
Quentin is a dork, but not in like the Harry Potter dork way, because old Thunderbolt Head never really gives people a reason to mistreat him, in the same way that no one should ever feel the need to bully a brick with a face painted on it. And the only reason people do pick on Harry Potter is so everyone can clap for him by the end of each book. You did it, Harry, oh my god. Quentin, on the other hand, struggles to relate to other people because he likes nerdy shit, like close-up magic, and he loves a Narnia parody fantasy series, and he's very emotional and very depressed.
You have friends, don't you?
As he enters adulthood, he fears the hobbies he's kept closest to his heart are not adult enough to be accepted by his peers.
Duh.
On the other hand, Harry's biggest problem in life is that some people might not realize what a special and super awesome boy he is. Oh, he's the kind of guy that if you asked what his favorite band was, he'd probably short circuit for a minute and go, oh, yes, I enjoy human music. I mean, normal music, rock music. Queen is a band, yes, and the royalty of the country. I love bands.
Human music. I like it.
Quentin's whole personality might seem like your standard beleaguered nerd traits, but they go a long way towards establishing him as a protagonist who feels like a real breathing person. And that already puts The Magicians miles above Harry Potter. And hey, you know what else is miles above? The sky. Which effortlessly brings us to The Walking Dead initially did a great job keeping zombies more as background props and focusing on how humans are the real monsters. But even the best things become unbearable if you go overboard with them, like f***ing Dave, like Pants Marshmallows. Ew, no, And look, I get Walking Dead is about the darkness of the human soul and other phrases you might find in a book report written by a sophomore high schooler whose blood has been replaced with monster energy, but at one point, the people of The Walking Dead became too monstrous and backstabby.
I am gonna beat the holy fucking out of one of you.
That's a cheap way to create drama because that's not how humans operate. People instinctively work together when metaphorical sewage pipes bust at the allegorical fan factory located right next to the white sheets of symbolism. You can still find great stories in that setup. Just look at the TNT show Falling Skies. There, the global population decimating apocalypse was caused not by the undead, but by an alien invasion. And while some humans took that opportunity to live out their wildest Mad Max fantasies, the majority of the survivors banded together to fight back. They created cells of mobile cities centered around militia units of fighters protecting a civilian population, with the two groups always butting heads. The soldiers understandably see themselves as more important, since they were the ones actually out there risking their lives and fighting the space invaders. But on the other hand, the civilians are comprised of families and teachers and people that are going to be valuable custodians of human culture and a chance for things returning to normal once the threat is past.
All they wanted were the kids.
But despite these tensions, both groups never start murdering and eating each other, except maybe out, because fear and despair are powerful aphrodisiacs.
When you are in the most painful, dire situation, what kind of person are you? Are you someone who gets up and
That's why all of my wifes and my date nights happen at a haunted Arby's. They have the meats. So do I. Oh, yes, yes. I have children. Falling Skies also has more focus. Not only more meats, but more focus. There's no blind stumbling around all over the map just trying to survive. Everybody has a specific goal they're working towards, defeating the aliens. We also get to learn a lot more about the lethal ETs as time goes on, with the show taking the time to do some really cool world building, giving us just enough to build a distinctive identity, but knowing where to leave things out so we can fill in some of the blanks ourselves. In comparison, The Walking Dead will probably answer the question of why people started turning into zombies with a smug, "Who are you, the plot police? The cause of zombieism is whatever's in your heart. Look, here's the guy sitting on a tiger. Leave me alone." Oh, So, yeah, I've been Jordan Breeding, and I don't know how to end this episode, so...